The D.C. coup case against Donald Trump, DOJ's Jack Smith adjusting, but still on offense. This is the special counsel coup trial, which was affected by the Supreme Court ruling. And here you have a new superseding indictment that came down late today. Now, this is superseding with no new charges, but it was presented to a new grand jury. This is Jack Smith and the Justice Department complying with the Supreme Court's ruling, which favored Trump and basically created a new type of immunity. There wasn't such an immunity in any legal precedent for what the Supreme Court called official acts. Now, legal scholars have debated this. Whether you agree with it or not is a public matter. But here's what it actually means to Jack Smith, who must comply with Supreme Court rulings. The Times, reporting on this new indictment, says much of the old indictment remained untouched as Smith's team came out with its new one. Trump faces the same 4 charges. So this is Jack Smith saying we will follow the law, and we think there is a way we can continue to bring this case, the bulk of it the same, against defendant Trump. But they also adjusted where they felt the law required them to. That's what happens when you get a new court ruling. They removed details about how Trump used or tried to use the DOJ to either overturn the election result or create lies and fraud that would justify those efforts. They also removed Jeffrey Clark, a Trump ally at the DOJ, who had been listed as co-conspirator 4 and had been identified as Clark. Now, interfering with the DOJ was one of those plots. We marked several as arrows. And you might see down there DOJ interference. It's one of the things that happened later, third to the bottom, in December 2020. Now, the DOJ, following the Supreme Court's orders, is stating this is an official act. So as a factual matter, you can see the DOJ interference, we'll put that back up, may have still occurred. That is to say, there was a plot. If we could get the arrow, I'm going to show you guys again. The plot to get, there it is, the DOJ to interfere still occurred. What's different now, and this is why the Supreme Court is powerful, is you can see we've changed it to green because they're basically saying that's official, not eligible to be charged as a federal crime. Smith also has been busy appealing a ruling to try to keep alive the classified documents case in Florida. The Supreme Court's immunity ruling relates to that as well.
That momentous decision by the Supreme Court ruling former President Donald Trump is entitled to some immunity from prosecution.
Justice Clarence Thomas took things a little bit of a step further and said, we're not so sure even the appointment of a special counsel named Jack Smith was legal.
That gave Judge Cannon a green light if she wanted to go in this direction. Well, she sure took it here with a 93-page opinion dismissing this indictment in its entirety.
And this is Justice Thomas's telegram to Judge Cannon coming to its full fruition.
So Jack Smith has been dealt some setbacks in the lower court and the Supreme Court. The news here, when you take it together, is that he is trying to get the Florida case basically rebooted. And a lot of legal experts think a higher court that is sort of less friendly to Trump would probably allow that. And he's also trying to maintain the coup trial while acknowledging what the Supreme Court said about official acts. I'm joined now by David Kelly, the former U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, and full disclosure, my former boss. Welcome back, David.
Nice to see you. How are you, Ari?
I'm good. Busy times, end of summer, and then we get this Jack Smith superseding indictment today. You've handled a lot of cases like this, although it is unusual to have the Supreme Court jump in the middle and create what basically was new law. But Jack Smith's got to play by the rules. So what do you see him doing in this new coup indictment today?
So I'll tell you, I mean, from an old prosecutor's perspective, I think that Jack Smith is being appropriately relentless. And he has really carefully tailored this indictment. It's gone from 45 pages to, I think, 36 pages. And as you point out, the big thing was the pulling out of the Jeffrey Clark routine with, trying to convince Justice Department to come out with false statements about the election fraud. The other big thing that I missed was they also pulled out the Attorney General advising the former president that there was no election fraud. I think that was a nice piece of proof that they don't have anymore. But I tell you what, the indictment as it reads now is as mind-blowing as it was before. And, from a trial tactician perspective, don't make perfect the enemy of the good. there's an awful lot in this indictment that just screams out for kind of slam dunk area in terms of what they're going to be able to prove their charges. So there's I think a lot of people's initial reaction when the Supreme Court came out was that it's been eviscerated. And I think Jack Smith came through here with a superseding indictment, as you point out, having yet another grand jury find beyond a reasonable doubt, or excuse me, beyond a probable cause to believe that a crime was committed here. And they've done an awfully nice job. We'll see how the judge rules to determine whether or not it was properly tailored in accordance with the Supreme Court ruling. And when I say appropriate relentless, because it comes at the same time, as you point out, that he's filed his appeal of the Judge Cannon ruling. And I think there's another really strong argument there that Judge Cannon has ignored decades, if not, in fact, I think Jack Smith points out centuries of procedures here where the appointments provisions were upheld for this type of appointment of him. I mean, I guess, it's almost one of the arguments that I think he makes is that, the Attorney General officially appoints assistant United States attorneys. My certificate was signed by Attorney General Edward Meese. But this goes back to essentially saying, well, if this Attorney General Garland can't appoint Jack Smith, then he can't appoint an assistant U.S. attorney, of which there are thousands across the country to staff the 93 different offices to prosecute cases. Yeah. So I think he's made really good cases for the prosecution on the election fraud case. And I think he's done a really nice job of appealing and articulating the very strong arguments that he has with regard to appealing Judge Cannon's ruling.